Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another one of the mini casts that we have started to do. I have titled this one Violating Vaccines because we're going to be looking at all kinds of crazy stuff, guys. Have you been seeing the news? And I don't mean, me getting censored and all that other stuff. I'm talking about how they're finding holistic doctors that are dead. This cop that's literally in California, this cop that's literally walking up on people saying, "Have you does your child have the regular shots? Have your child had the proper vaccines?" And the New York Times actually confirming that this year's flu vaccine is ineffective. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I want to talk about it all because this is part of their global health security agenda. It's population control, social engineering at its finest. This is directed evolution, and so much more. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So as I said, they have found another holistic doctor dead. Dr. Annie Fairbanks. Think about that. Another one found dead just last weekend on Friday. She was found dead, shot in her own home on Friday along with her husband, her 3-year-old daughter, and her 9-month son. She's the 77th doctor to have been found dead under mysterious circumstances over the past couple of years. Yeah, we have an article up on our website that I'll put in the description bar below where they talk about Dr. Andrew Cutler. He died from a heart attack at the age of 60, but the crazy thing about it was he was one of the doctors that was actually out there warning people about these vaccines, warning people about how crazy this stuff is. I mean, you start in, this particular doctor wasn't, she wasn't practicing vaccines. She wasn't doing immunizations and anything like that. But it goes to show when we start to take our own health into our own hands, these people have a huge problem with it. They don't want us to basically be able to have this ability. They only want us to live inside of their own parameters. They don't want us to really see what's going on. I mean, the minute we start to take our health back, the minute we don't buy McDonald's, the minute we don't go get these shots, the minute we don't get the GMO foods, the minute that we basically go off the reservation and start to take care of ourselves, that's whenever they see it as a problem. That's whenever they start killing us because they don't want us to do that. That's why I'm always telling people to vote with your dollars, vote with your lifestyle. We keep buying into the system. The system's going to collapse. We already see that happening in many ways and shapes and forms. Let me get into this article for you guys and then we'll move on. And this is, like I said, where we're talking about Dr. Annie Fairbanks, a holistic doctor in Arizona who was found shot dead in her home on Friday along with her husband, 3-year-old daughter, and 9-month-old son. She is the 77th doctor, the holistic doctor, to have been found dead under mysterious circumstances over the past couple of years. Within hours of the shooting, Scottsdale Police Department spokesperson Sergeant Ben Hoster claimed that Jason Fairbanks must have killed his wife and child before turning the gun on them. Hoster said, told reporters during a news conference on Friday afternoon, quote, "We do not believe there are any outstanding suspects." Prep for that reports that the family is said to have lived in a relatively safe neighborhood after Jason was absent from work. One of his fellow coworkers drove over to his home and made the grisly discovery. It is believed that the couple was in financial trouble related to a failing physical rehabilitation center they co-owned. This was a master chef practitioner as well as a holistic nutrition doctor. So they're trying to say that, well, they had financial trouble, therefore they killed themselves and their children. They basically all committed suicide. The husband lost his mind and killed the wife and the children. I mean, that can definitely happen. But when you're looking at this, why was it a doctor? Why did they have a clinic? Why were they practicing holistic medicine, holistic health, only for them to be found dead? That is the crazy part. Okay, and I'll continue on and then we'll move on. It says, while Jason Fairbanks has been determined by police to be the killer, according to a report in AZ Central, Jason's sister described her brother as more of a protector. Quote, "He loved his family so much," Laura Fairbanks said. "He wasn't a bad person." She went on to describe him as an excessively hard worker and did confirm that she believed the family was experiencing financial difficulties. Quote, "I just wished he'd asked for help," she said. Quote, "Jason could make people laugh in ways you never thought you could. He was an extraordinary big brother." Laura also said that Dr. Annie Fairbanks had an amazing presence and nature about her. She said she was always wearing a smile. And these are the people that you see right here. So I'm not going to go into, how they start glorifying these people, but, rest in peace. Why would they try to murder these people? What kind of revolutionary things were they working on that actually got them to get this kind of recognition? But like I said, we're not necessarily talking about the holistic doctors in this episode. What we are trying to talk about is how that a mother in California was threatened with arrest over vaccines, and how they are literally trying to push this agenda. They want you to have their health. This is that health care. You're not allowed to seek anything outside of what these people provide. And if you send your kids to school, you better make sure they have the shots. Let's take a listen.
Who are you? What is your name?
I'm Mr. Del Boston with the school district.
Okay, what is your first name?
Felipe Del Boston with the school
Okay,
district.
what is your position? I don't understand the purpose of you
Ma'am,
being here.
I'm the one who needs to know if you have had your son with the vaccine.
Why do you, they already know what I have. They know what I have, so I don't understand the purpose of you being here. I don't understand the purpose of you being here. I don't understand the line of your questioning. I don't understand what your position is at Claremont School District, and I'm asking these questions. What is your position?
I'm asking the question, ma'am, do you have the vaccine?
I'm asking you, I'm not answering any questions till I know who you are. I don't know who you are. Who are you? Give me a card.
I already told you who I am.
I don't know who you are. What is his position, ma'am?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know who
Sketchy.
this man is. He came with the Claremont Police Department to make sure, I guess, to treat my 6-year-old like a criminal because to make sure he doesn't have any immunizations. I am recording this because this is harassment. I am embarrassed. Now, who are you? What is your name?
That's sketchy. Could you literally imagine having somebody walk right up on you and say, "Hey, does your kid have these shots?" That's basically like the Nazis asking for your papers. Hey, do you have your papers? Or whenever you go to the vet, they say, "Hey, is your dog been? It's got the vaccines, right? It's got the shots, right?" They're now doing that to people. They're sending cops out there with school officials, basically saying, "Hey, do you have your shots?" And now this is mandatory in California. That's why we follow whatever is going on with this vaccine agenda so heavily. Because if it wasn't a deal, why wouldn't they let us have a choice? I mean, we've talked about Rebecca Bordeaux, the mother who actually went to jail, didn't want her child to get vaccinated. She went to jail and said, "You know what? I'm not doing this. That violates all of the things I stand for." But you got to ask yourself, why are people pushing back on this vaccine agenda? Why do people have such a hard time with this? Because not only does it alter your DNA, it sometimes even gives you allergies. You imagine that, you go in, you get a shot, your child goes in, gets a shot, and now develops an allergy to nuts, an allergy to certain things. Like, that's crazy. I mean, we're not even going to get started on talking about what's inside of these things. What's actually in vaccines, from formaldehyde to mercury, to antifreeze, to aluminum, to phenol, to borax, to methanol, to glutathione, MSG, monosodium glutamate, ammonium sulfate, sulfate and phosphate compounds. Like, you name it, man. They got it up in here. Animal viruses. I didn't even talk about human viruses. Some of the genetic modified diseases they have in there. And they're trying to push this stuff into kids. So obviously there's going to be some people that are going to fight back to that. There's going to be people that are going to be pretty upset about what we as a semi-civilized society considers modern healthcare. I mean, this is what you get whenever you're living in a free and open society, right? These are the people that commonly tell you, you were the problem. They say that because you don't have your shots, because you don't abide by society's rule, because dummy, you actually have a brain, because you read the vaccine inserts, you see the crazy amounts of damage that it's doing. Because you're fully cognizant, you're considered crazy. And it won't stop there. Yeah, it was back in October where we kind of covered this Rebecca Bordeaux situation. Let's take a listen.
I knew it was going to happen either way, but again, it's something that I couldn't do. I couldn't bring myself to do it because it goes against what I believe in. Now that he's had the vaccinations, he still has a few more that he has to get. I believe the father has an appointment set up. I don't know what the exact date of that is. I believe it's towards December. But if I could stop those, I will. Anything that I can stop from having injected to his body, then I would, It's just, today picking him up for the first time, I was scared. I'm nervous about it. He wasn't feeling well when I picked him up today. He was sweaty, has a little bit of a headache, which is, some of the normal side effects of having vaccinations. I was surprised at how many he got at one time. How many? He had a total of 4, but within those 4, there was a total of 8. And then he had the newest one, which is an MMRV, which has 2 live viruses in it, which is the, the measles, mumps, rubella, and then the varicella, which is chicken.
Yeah, so this is some very stuff.
But again, it's something that I couldn't do.
Yeah, like she said, there's a lot of different stuff in there. As soon as the kids get the vaccines, they're commonly feeling sick because, well, you're basically not chemically overdosing these children, but you're giving them massive amounts of drugs. You're messing with their immune system, and that's what they're designed to do. They're designed to weaken your immune system so that they can try to rebuild it. You name it. This stuff that we're talking about, mothers going to jail because they don't want their child vaccinated. It's because these mothers are like us. They actually read the vaccine inserts. They understand what is actually happening. And this is after the fact. Rebecca Bordeaux actually did go to jail because, like she said, I'm not going to vaccinate my kid. But that's the crazy thing. This wasn't in California. That was in Michigan. And here, let's take another look at another mother that might be facing the same thing. I think her name is Lori Matheson. Yep, this is out there. And where is this? 23andMe. It doesn't necessarily show it. I think this might be Michigan as well. Let's take a listen.
Right now, I am at Oakland County Court, where just earlier today, that mom faced the exact same judge that really last week sentenced Rebecca Bordeaux to 7 days in jail. This mom, not quite at risk of going to jail, but just as passionate about keeping her child away from certain immunizations.
Due to my religious beliefs, due to autoimmune history in my family, which can be a
be vaccinated. Although similar in nature to that of Rebecca Bordeaux's case, a mother for the vaccination, a father against, there is a glaring difference. No court order agreement between the spouses at this point for any kind of inoculation, bringing this former husband and wife head to head. Today, the attorney for the father pushed back on Matheson's religious claim.
I said, are other people at your church, are their kids vaccinated?
That's right. Right now, I am
at
crazy. Oakland County Court.
They're literally trying to take away different exemptions, take away different reasons for people to legitimately pull away from having their child vaccinated. I mean, you look at what's really happening with this whole hepatitis A outbreak that's going on over there in California, another thing that we reported on. This is another venue, another way for them to try to get this agenda across. SB 277 and SB 279. SB 277 is basically the mandate for children in California to have all of the shots. There's no religious exemption. There's nothing that really stops you. Like kids are being shot up with that. California Senate Bill 277, SB 277, is a California law which removes personal belief exemptions to vaccination requirements for entry to private or public elementary or secondary schools in California, as well as child daycare centers. It was passed in California State Senate in June 2015 and signed into law by Governor Jerry Brown on June 30th, 2015. And people in Italy have actually risen up against this whole mandate because this is some crazy stuff. They are literally forcibly injecting live viruses, genetically modified diseases, formaldehyde, mercury, you name it, all kinds of different things in there into children. And then they wonder, well, I don't understand why Jimmy's having these neurodevelopmental problems. I don't understand why Jimmy's over here a little slow. He's going to need more shots. He's going to need more of this. So when we start talking about, cops walking up on people in California saying, hey, do you have your shots? This is some very serious stuff. It's very dangerous. Let's take a listen.
Strong message sentencing Rebecca Bordeaux to jail for 7 days for contempt for failing to follow a court order to vaccinate her son. Rebecca Brado glaring at her ex-husband while being escorted out of court in handcuffs for not following a court consent order to vaccinate her 9-year-old son.
It's clear to me that you don't care about orders, even if you agree to them, which you did. You agreed in November 30th. Your attorney signed that order.
The order was part of a custody battle between Brado and her ex-husband, who wants their son vaccinated.
I am an educated, vaccine choice mother, and I have signed vaccine waivers and have been fully compliant with all state Michigan laws for both of my children for every school year.
Brado says she and her ex-husband initially agreed on their vaccination views, but that recently changed, a claim Judge McDonald says is false.
You acknowledge in your own pleadings your child at a year old was up to date on all his vaccinations.
Today was the deadline. Circuit judge right here.
Yeah, and this is some serious stuff. And, you know, Rebecca Brado definitely has my respect. For her to go through that and stay committed, say, you know what, I'm not folding. I'm not vaccinating my kid. Any problems come up, it's on the husband, because we were here when all that happened. We were here. We saw what was going to happen. So let's take a look at this right here. We'll get into this article, and I'll play for you that video, and then we'll close this episode out for you guys. The Great Flu Hoax, or the Great Flu Vaccine Hoax. The new evidence. They're basically saying that the University of Pennsylvania is saying that the flu vaccine is a great hoax, and I would agree. This is what we're talking about, but it doesn't matter. They're saying it's mandated that you have to get these things, regardless of your vaccine, regardless of your religious exemption, your personal feelings, your personal beliefs, anything. Society is now mandating for these types of things to happen, and that's why this is so big. When we're talking about cops literally walking up on people. That is if you ask me, I feel like that's against the Constitution, that's against the Bill of Rights, that's against so many different things. But I'm going to get into this article. It's from the Daily Sheeple by John Rappaport. I put it up November 8th. It says, the Great Flu Vaccine Hoax. New evidence. Apparently, the powers that be want everyone to take the seasonal vaccine, the flu vaccine, out of loyalty and blind faith, because actual science reveals the hoax. A new study published in the PLOS Journal on 10/23 by contributing authors from the Scripps Institute and the University of Pennsylvania is titled, quote, a structural explanation for the low effectiveness of the seasonal influenza H3N2 vaccine. Oops. Low effectiveness. The public has been taught to believe that the vaccine is quite effective. Here is a key quote from the study. It says, quote, it is common to use chicken eggs for culturing clinical isolates and for large-scale production of vaccines. However, influenza virus often mutates to adapt to being grown in chicken eggs, which can influence antigenicity and hence vaccine effectiveness. Translation: the virus in the vaccine mutates in the chicken eggs, and therefore the patient's immune system responds to the wrong version of the flu virus. Here is another quote. Our study describes a mechanism that explains the low influenza vaccine effectiveness and reaffirms the urgency for replacing the egg-based production of the influenza vaccines. It gets worse, far worse. Here is evidence I cited from ACE from several years now. It comes from a 2013 review saying that Dr. Peter Doshi, writing in the online BMJ, British Medical Journal, reveals a monstrosity. As Doshi states, every year hundreds of thousands of respiratory samples are taken from flu patients in the U.S. and tested in the labs. Here's the kicker. Only a small percentage of these samples show the presence of a flu vaccine, of the flu virus. This means most people in America who are diagnosed by doctors with the flu have no flu virus in their bodies, so they don't have the flu. Therefore, even if you assume the flu vaccine is useful and safe, it couldn't possibly prevent all those, quote, flu cases that aren't flu cases. The vaccine couldn't possibly work. The vaccine isn't designed to prevent fake flu unless pigs can fly. And that's what we're talking about. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this, about, again, how we're talking about the New York Times confirming that mumps is mostly spread by people who are vaccinated because they're giving these diseases out. Granted, to a degree, they probably fixed and eradicated some diseases, but now that we have these things mutating, now that we have so many different factors involved, we don't really see the kind of epigenetic diseases that we're making, the mutations that can happen, how the body adapts, how the disease adapts. But it doesn't matter. You don't need to think about that. Regardless, you need to obey the state and get your vaccines. That's a problem. This is a massive problem, and this is probably only one incident. We got a window into this type of stuff, a window into this type of behavior, that these kind of creepy people would walk up to you and ask you if you have your vaccines. I bet you they probably wouldn't debate you about these types of things. I bet you they wouldn't tell you that some of these diseases actually alter your DNA. This is an article put up by the New York Times back in 2015. Protection without a vaccine. It describes all kinds of stuff about how, it's going to alter your DNA. There's a lot of heavy stuff that comes with all this. So doctors getting killed when they're trying to warn the public. Dr. Peter Ciferrani trying to warn the public about what's going on with these vaccines. Dr. Andrew Cutler talking about the mercury in vaccines and how it messes with people. This is very real stuff. And whenever you're shooting children up, basically chemically overdosing them, chemically intoxicating them, they don't have a chance. And then you put them on a schedule, and then year after year after year after year, they get new doses and new strains and new types of diseases. I mean, the Rockefeller Institute actually has the patent for Ebola and Zika. Like, this is some crazy stuff. Everything I'm talking about here, guys, this is all stuff and researchable public information that you can go find. And that's why I'm trying to raise alarm bells about all this, because this is intense. It blows my mind that we have hit the day and age to where school officials are equipped with police officers, and then they go up and ask people, do you have your vaccines? Do you have the proper vaccines? Think about that. Think about that. Where is your freedom in a world like that? Where can you stand? Where is your choice in a world that is that authoritarian?
Now, who are you? What is your name?
I'm Mr. Del Boston with the school district.
Okay, what is your first name?
Felipe Del Boston with the school
Okay,
district.
what is your position? I don't understand the purpose of you
Ma'am,
being here.
I'm the one who needs to know if you have had your son with the vaccine.
Why
or
do
not.
you? They already know what I have.
So-
They know what I have, so I don't
so
understand
right
the
now you
purpose
don't
of
have
you being
vaccines.
here. Well, I don't understand the purpose of you being here. I don't understand the line of your questioning. I don't understand what your position is at Claremont School District, and I'm asking these questions. What is your position?
I'm asking the question, ma'am, do you have the vaccine?
I'm asking you. I'm not answering any questions till I know who you are. I don't know who you are. Who are you? Give me a card.
I already told you who I am.
I don't know who you are. What is his position, ma'am?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know who this man is. He came with the Claremont Police Department to make sure, I guess, to treat my 6-year-old like a criminal because to make sure he doesn't have any immunizations. I am recording this because this is harassment.
However, that's all I really have for you guys. I know I kind of went over the place, as I typically do, but this stuff, this issue is not simple. This isn't an open and shut case like they would have you believe. I'm going to put a few descriptions a few links in the description bar below that kind of show you guys the types of stuff that we're talking about. A few articles that we have on the website that not only show you some of the ingredients within the vaccines and their side effects, but things about how other doctors have gone missing, that have been killed, and some of the weird things that are attached with all of this vaccine agenda, with this global health security agenda. This is very real stuff that we're talking about, and whether or not people look at it is up to them. Our children's future is in our hands today. We have got to be hyper vigilant, extremely aware, super aware of what is happening around us and what this overarching agenda is. I know this seems simple to some people, but I can assure you this is just the beginning. But like I said, that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction.